Hello, everybody. We are back for our weekly predictions pod. We will be going through UFC Vegas 110, Garcia versus Onama, main card predictions here. My co-hosts, San and Ryan, are here to join me. I'm your host, Zach. Fellas, let's get into it, all right? And to kick us off here, we're going to start off with Alan Nascimento versus Cody Durden here. And there are no odds out for this fight. It is at a catch weight, so the fight will not be taking place at 125 pounds. Ryan, I'm going to let you kick this one off and give you the difficult job of handicapping this one first.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Cody Durden stepped in on short notice to take this one, so all credit to him. But usually in these circumstances, I pretty much stick with the guy that's coming in off a full training camp. Cody Durden, really good wrestler, American wrestler, was using it well against his fight in Bruno Silva. Went into round two, doing the same thing, looked very good, looked like he was going to be a comfortable fight for him, and then he just got clipped with an uppercut and got KO'd. So it's pretty much been like the story of Cody Durden's career in the UFC, just a lot of ups and downs, looks good in fights until he doesn't. And then in terms of Alan Nascimento, wicked grappler, 15 wins by sub. I'm taking him to get this one done in the same way. I just think cardio is going to become a big factor here come later into the rounds 2 or 3, and I think Nascimento is going to get it done by sub.
Yeah, I am right there with you, Ryan. I think this one's pretty straightforward for me. I mean, when you see a guy that not only has 15 submission wins, but then you look at the team that he's got behind him. He's training at Shoot Your Box with Diego Lima alongside Charles Oliveira there. So he's got a serious camp around him. He's got some really wicked fighters, and the submission threat's obviously there. He's a guy that's, obviously training with Charles Oliveira. And if there's one guy that I want to be training me to submit people at the highest level, it's that guy. So I'm also going Nascimento here, and I love the prop by sub here.
You know what? Fuck it, boys. I'll ride that sub too. Cody Durden, 4 career subs, 3 of which in the UFC here. I'll take the Shoot Box Brazilian. San, you have the real pronunciation of Shoot Box. I got the American pronunciation, but beside the point, I will make that a clean sweep. And fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. And let's move on. And moving on, we have a Valley Flow guy here looking to rebound off a loss to Mike Malott in Charles Radke, who is the slight favorite, taking on Daniel Frunza, who is looking to pick up his first UFC win following his doctor stoppage loss after round 1 in his debut to Rice McKee. Stan, which man do you see exiting the octagon with the win come Saturday night?
For as much as I like Charles Radke, and I like the guy, I think he's kind of a riot. He's cool. He's cool to see in there. He kind of fights kind of crazy. But when I saw the height difference between these guys, it really kind of threw me in for a loop. With their reach being pretty similar, I think Radke is going to have a lot tougher time finding Frunza's chin when he's standing at 6'1" and Radke's standing at 5'8". And then Frunza is also a little bit younger as well. And did you say Frunza was an underdog here?
Slight underdog, plus 140 to Radke's minus 170.
So that's even more of a reason for me to be on Frunza here. So I got him beating Radke, but I wouldn't expect Radke to quit out on that fight. He's going to go out on his feet.
Yeah, I'm going in the opposite direction here, Son. I'm actually riding with Radke on this one. I think I look back, I noticed you touched on the height discrepancy. It's not the first guy who's 6'1" that he's fought inside the octagon. He KO'd Matthew Semelsberger in pretty dominant fashion when he fought him, and then couldn't get it done against Mike Malott, but 2 different calibers of competition. And I put this guy's same caliber as Matthew Semelsberger, and I just see Radke avoiding the reach because while it does seem like the height difference is going to be there, there's only a 1-inch reach disadvantage going in his way. So I still think he should be able to find his range and put the lights out because the guy just hits like an absolute freight train. Give me Charles Radke by round 1 KO.
Round 1 seems like Charles Radke fashion there. I don't see this one going the distance here. And one thing to note is just if you look at who Charles Radke has lost to, man, it's Carlos Prates and Mike Malott in his recent stint of fights, which nothing to scuff at there. And then you look at Daniel Frunza's loss to Rice McKee, who has like a 1-4 or 1-5 record in the UFC, with Frunza being the sole win there. Granted, it wasn't his UFC debut, doctor stoppage after round 1, but a little concerning there. I'm going to go with Charles Radke as well. What scares me a little bit is minus 170 to plus 140. Like, you almost think that I don't think Radke should be a really too big of a favorite over anyone, but you'd almost think that Vegas would make him a wider favorite. Like he's the more known name who's fought the better of the competition against a guy who hasn't won a UFC fight. So I don't know what Vegas has up their sleeves, making this a sneaky, very close odds fight here. So I don't know, man. Maybe Vegas knows something here, San, but
yeah, I'm siding with him.
Yeah, moving on. We have Isaac Dolgarian coming in at minus 270 against the Cuban problem, Yadier de Valle. It seems the books over-respect Isaac Dolgarian a bit, as he seems to come out as a big favorite in almost all of his fights. His last fight, especially, or 2 fights ago, especially against Christian Rodriguez, he was about a 3-1 favorite over C-Rod. And then his last fight was, due to circumstances, he was like a minus 2,000 favorite. You have someone stepping in on short notice kind of thing. So can't really put too much stake in that. But on the flip side of that, the Cuban problem looking to improve to 2-0 in the UFC and 10-0 professionally, coming off a round 1 sub over our boy Connor Matthews. Another thing to note, the Cuban problem also has a win over Michael Aswell, as they both grew up fighting in those Houston, Texas promotions. While Yadier de Valle is from Cuba, he trains in Houston, Texas. So another thing to note there, Ryan, what do you make of Dolgarian coming in as a minus 270 favorite over the Cuban problem, and how do you see this fight going?
I don't know, really. I don't think that the line is as egregious as it may seem. Granted, he lost that split decision to Christian Rodriguez, but it was going similar to his UFC debut and his last fight in the UFC. They all kind of look the same, where he just gets out there, he might throw a 1-2 down the pipe, and then he just shoots for the legs. And once he has you on the ground, it just seems to be the case where you're not getting back up. And it's another thing. It's the Cuban problem. I was going to say the Cuban Missile Crisis. Shout out to Julian Marquez. But this guy, it's like, how many times, especially this year, you see like a 9-0, 10-0 guy, coming in off their second fight in the UFC, and it's maybe in this case, this guy's an underdog in this fight. And I think the books are kind of getting privy to that, because we saw it with Peyton Talbot. We've seen it with a bunch of these guys who just come out, fight someone who's like they've never seen before in terms of skill and competition wise, and they just upset everyone who's placed a bet on them. Granted, this guy is an underdog, but I see this fight going the same way. Granted that Isaac Dolgarian doesn't gas out in the third, same way he kind of did against that Christian Rodriguez fight, but I think he learned a lot from that. Slow the pace down a little bit, but I think once he gets him on the ground, this guy's not coming back up. So give me Isaac Dolgarian by decision. He could find it in. This guy does do high pressure, goes for subs, high pressure shots on the ground, tries to split the guard with elbows, shots like that. But I think this guy's tough enough to survive those, and I think Isaac Dolgarian wins himself a pretty comfortable decision here.
Yeah, I'm with you, Ryan. I am also going Dolgarian. What kind of strikes me out from both of these guys, and they've had a pretty similar career as far as their age, their height, their reach, and just their prospects in a sense right now for the UFC. And the one guy that's had a difference in that career is Dolgarian. He had that one pro loss, like you mentioned, and that kind of, when you got two guys that are kind of coming from the same spot, I feel like the guy with the loss is just going to be a little bit more battle tested and maybe even, come back stronger after taking that loss. And after facing some adversity, I think that'll do something for you in there. So I'm right there with you. I'm going Dolgarian, and I think he's coming back better now after that loss.
Yeah, Yadier de Valle is coming from Fury Fighting Championship, which is, in my opinion, a very good regional promotion there. So he has gotten some good competition. Like I touched on it. He beat Michael Aswell about 6 pro fights ago. So he's been in there fighting legit competition. And then he stepped into the UFC, and you see his grappling with Connor Matthews. And Yadier de Valle is a very, very good grappler. I think just as good as Isaac Dolgarian, potentially maybe better, to be completely honest with you. I know he's on that Cuban grappling team and whatnot. What scares me a little bit is I don't know if he'll be able to take down Dolgarian on the feet. I think once he's on the ground, he'll be just as good as Dolgarian on the ground, if not potentially better. But he's more of a Greco-Roman style guy. He'll try to throw Dolgarian, look for trips and whatnot. And I don't know if that's going to work, where Dolgarian has the better pure wrestling. So whoever's able to win that battle very well could win the fight here. I just think minus 270 is a bit too steep here for Isaac Dolgarian, when I don't see him being much better really anywhere this fight goes. He might be a slightly better, or he's a better wrestler. The striking's like pretty even. He might be a slightly better striker, but I don't think it's going to be like a pro versus an amateur out there looking like that, how it does in some fights where he just has a massive skill advantage anywhere. So with me just thinking they're so close basically all around, I'd like to throw a shot at the dark here at the plus 220 dog. I really, really am not a fan of these odds at all. And I hope come Saturday, I'm like, hey, boys, told you something, but let's move on. We have Jeremiah Wells, the Philadelphia native, taking on the great story that is Themba Gorimbo, who is looking to bounce back from not such a great loss in a very bad looking sub to Vicente Luque. San, I think it's your turn to kick us off here. Do you see Wells grappling being a problem for Themba Gorimbo?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up that Luque loss because obviously, being a guy as Themba Gorimbo is that just never really got, the best camps. I just don't think it's that bad to lose to a guy like Luque on the ground, especially on that submission. Although it was a pretty nasty one, obviously, you can only do so much. But, like I was saying with the last fight, I think there is a lot to learn from your losses. And I think this situation is kind of being set up by the UFC for him to get a win back and potentially, becoming a bigger story in the UFC. Because we know how UFC likes to milk the storylines out of these fighters. So I think it just makes sense that Gorimbo is getting set up to win here. I mean, his opponent, Jeremiah Wells, is 38 years old, and he's also a heck of a lot shorter than him. He's 5'8" against Themba Gorimbo's 6'1". So I think, like the Radke fight, although there is a bigger reach advantage for Themba Gorimbo here than Radke's opponent, I just think it's being set up. All signs point to Gorimbo being able to finish this fight, and at the very least win it and keep that, that name in the UFC that people like to see, after being told this nice story. But, that's just what it seems like to me. I got Themba Gorimbo here winning.
Yeah, son, I pretty much agree with everything you just said. It kind of took all the words out of my mouth. But yeah, Themba Gorimbo, I think his last fight against Vicente Luque, I don't want to call it like the lights were too bright. I just think he didn't have enough time, because Luque latched that up off a poorly taken shot within like 30 seconds of that fight. And Vicente Luque is known for that submission. So you just got him right where he wanted him. And Vicente Luque hasn't been looking the best since his last couple fights after that. So in my opinion, it's just like, the dude got caught, didn't get enough time to open into the fight, and it was just an off night for Themba Gorimbo. But we've seen what this guy can do in the octagon. He's looked really good. Blitzing power, knocked out Pete Rodriguez in one singular overhand right. That was pretty sick. Has been comfortable on the ground, just riding guys out to decisions, which isn't, not the most exciting per se, but I just do think that skill-wise and everything, like San said, where it seems that the UFC is setting him up to bounce back and get a win and maybe get another shot at the top 15 after this. So I think the UFC is writing this story pretty well for him, and they want to keep him in there. So I see Themba Gorimbo getting it done and Jeremiah Wells not really shattering the UFC's hopes and dreams for having a sob story that they could coast and market off of.
I'm going to say one thing, guys. I think if the UFC was setting up Themba Gorimbo for a big win, they'd give him someone that's not Jeremiah Wells even further down on the list, because this is an even odds fight. This is a complete toss-up in the eyes of Vegas. If they really wanted to set him up, there's so many different fighters in this division that they could have given him here. Granted, would they rather see Themba Gorimbo win or Jeremiah Wells? Gorimbo. I mean, he's the bigger name compared to Wells. There's no doubt about that. But I just think that's something like there's so many other matchups they could have given him, and they could have given him so many matchups to guys that don't grapple, where Jeremiah Wells shoots a lot of takedowns, and Themba Gorimbo, I don't know if he'll be able to defend all the takedowns here. And one thing I really want to kind of point out is Themba Gorimbo's fight IQ. That fight against Vicente Luque, they trained together for a while, man. Like, they're familiar with each other, and he went out there and looked like an absolute idiot and put himself, like you're saying, he put himself into a submission that Vicente Luque is known for against a guy that you train against. How fucking stupid are you, bro? Like, let's be real, man. Like, what he's good at, and you still go out there and get subbed by it in under 1 minute. And then you look at the caliber of fighters that he beat here. You have Nico Price, Ramiz Brahimaj, Pete Rodriguez, Takeshi Sato. Like, I do not know, man. I'm not high on Themba Gorimbo. Am I high on Jeremiah Wells? No, either. But I guess I'm just more of a Themba Gorimbo hater a little bit. And I think the grappling deficiencies there. I like Wells' grappling upside. What I will say is, though, is that Demba Gorimbo can offensively wrestle as well. We see him offensively wrestle, shoot a lot of takedowns. He's had some success. We haven't seen him really defensively grapple well. So I think whoever is able to go out and kind of press that grappling game against the other, because if he puts Wells on the back foot, I think he could take down Jeremiah Wells and maybe control him. But I could see Wells taking down Gorimbo and controlling him as well. So I don't know, man. It's a tough fight to call here. I'm going to side with Jeremiah Wells, give the podcast a little diversity with this pick. And yeah, fade Demba Gorimbo. Sorry, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but I'm fading your boy here. Hopefully The Rock doesn't give a shit for that one, son. I heard he's our biggest fan, like Yuri.
Yeah, he's listening every week, dude. Got to watch out what you say about him.
Him and Yuri, man. But now moving on, we have a fun matchup here. We have the former professional baseball player, where is Waldo Cortez Acosta, taking on the former PFL tournament champ and main training partner of none other than the heavyweight champion, Tom Aspinall, Ante Delija. Cortez Acosta is coming off his sole loss, or not his sole loss, but he's coming off a loss to Sergey Pavlovich, looking to rebound in this spot. Ryan, do you see him doing so?
I don't, man. Like you touched on, you said, main training partner of Tom Aspinall, and the way that you see Tom Aspinall talk about this guy, he's saying if it comes to it, he's willing to give up the belt so that Ante Delija can go live out his dreams, because Tom Aspinall has already, completed his. And then also to get faced up against Martin Tybura in your UFC debut and go out and knock him out, pretty much that preeminent gatekeeper of the heavyweight division that he has been for a few years now, is nothing short of impressive. Meanwhile, you have guys like, Waldo Cortez Acosta has just been kind of coasting his way to decisions. He has some sketchy decisions in there, in my opinion. But it's just one of those guys in the heavyweight division. He seems to be my heavyweight boogeyman, where I bet one way, it goes the other. I can never get a Waldo Cortez Acosta fight right, it seems like. I think I've gone against him every single time. And then the moment I pick him against Sergey Pavlovich, he fucking loses. So I'm going Delija here. So I'm sure Waldo Cortez is going to get some crazy split decision come Saturday night. But I see Delija, in all sense, keeping him on the back foot, putting up a pace, being a little bit more quick, a little more fast, and maybe even getting this one done by KO. But we will see.
Yeah, I mean, I hope Waldo does not get a freak knockout, because I'm also on Ante Delija's side here this weekend. I think all signs point to him. I think this is probably some of the better odds we're going to get him at. I like that you mentioned him coming into UFC on his debut at fighting Marcin Tybura. I think that's, exceptional and kind of speaks to the level that this guy is. Not only do the UFC matchmakers see it, but obviously Tom Aspinall sees it as well. With him speaking so highly of him, I think it's fair to assume that he's going to be really good. And with the UFC matchmaking him, so highly starting in his UFC debut, to where his second fight he's fighting Waldo Cortez Acosta, I think it just kind of speaks to the levels that this guy's on. So I'm going Delija here, hopefully by finish. But yeah, I'm just not seeing too much out of Waldo Cortez Acosta, especially after that Pavlovich fight, where I thought, I had Pavlovich winning that one, but certainly not by decision. And then Waldo couldn't really do too much with a gassed out Pavlovich. So yeah, give me the new guy. Give me Delija.
Yeah, I'm going to go Delija too. I think it's like an exciting, fun new heavyweight in this division here. And at the end of the day, what's he, 35 years old? Like that's not too old for the heavyweight division, man. That's really relatively pretty young. He has another 4 or 5 years left in this division, 6 years, 7 years. I mean, really, he could fight till low 40s up there at heavyweight. And like you guys kind of touched on, I'm not. Did I? Yeah. Like you guys touched on, I'm not really the highest on Waldo Cortez Acosta, and Delija's just been doing this for so much longer. Like Waldo Cortez Acosta was a minor league baseball player, I think in the Reds organization. I know we looked it up one time on this podcast, but crazy stat there. But I guess on the flip side of that coin, though, man, that has to make you think like he's relatively new to the game, so he would be the one getting better out of the two, right? I mean, he has more room to improve, you'd think, but I'm not going to put too much stake into that and act like that's going to be a reason for making a pick here. And yeah, I'm going to side with Ante Delija as well. But it is interesting, though, to kind of think about and just like throw it out there.
No,
He's
yeah, absolutely.
much younger in the sport.
I think heavyweight's one of those divisions where it's just like athletic, like, just pure athleticism can get you, very far, if that makes sense. Maybe not all
Yeah,
the way to the
definitely,
top, but like
definitely.
if you just, it's a lot easier to pick up in the heavyweight division, especially with the state the heavyweight division is now currently. I mean, the Abdul Wahab just got his win over Chris Barnett. It was a snooze fest, and apparently they ended up cutting him on Monday. So I think with the new Paramount deal, they are trying to clean up that division a little bit. I'm happy with it. So maybe we'll see some highly touted and fun young prospects coming out at 265 in the near future.
But you know what's tough about cleaning out that division, man, is that they only have like 30 fighters on the roster, so half of them are already ranked, and then like they'll cut ranked fighters because they're boring. So it's like
Yeah, I mean, for
it's such a
sure.
shit show, bro. And then
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
like I think Gable Steveson could probably be like a top 10 heavyweight right now, not to go down that rabbit hole, but just due to the athleticism and the wrestling. Like
Right.
the
I
UFC will
mean,
probably sign him in the very near future. And all you have to do at heavyweight is win like 2 fights, and then you're ranked because there's only like 30
yeah.
guys, and
In the
15 of them
case
are
of
ranked.
Ante Delija, you're ranked after your first fight. Granted, you earned it, but I think that does go to show they're giving 35, 34-year-olds the number 7 ranked heavyweight right off their UFC debut. I mean, worked out better than that Russian versus Curtis Blades that we saw earlier this year, but I think Delija's on another level compared to that guy. I'm blanking on his name, but
Kunyev,
yeah, Kunyev. And they
even
rebooked
though that fight was
fight.
pretty close too, though.
It was
But
close,
we're going down.
but
We're gonna go
still.
down a rabbit hole now.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
I was just gonna say, if you're big and athletic, you're probably gonna be an NFL lineman. Like you're not gonna fucking fight UFC. So,
well, yeah, that's the thing, dude, and that's kind of what everyone says. It's like in America, but that's weird though, because it's like in America, the best athletes tend to go to like football, basketball, and shit like that. Where like in other countries, that's not necessary. I mean, soccer for a lot of them is where their best athletes go. But let's move on. Main event. We have a matchup here between two ranked featherweights, 12th and 13th, respectively. Both guys have very high outputs here between Steve Garcia and David Onama. This is essentially a toss-up here. Son, who do you see reigning victorious in Saturday night's main event?
dude, I'm all over Steve Garcia here. Pause. I think he's a great fighter. I'm a very big fan of the way he fights. He really brings that, Mexican, feistiness to that ring, just throwing a lot of combinations and just kind of what you want to see. He is American, but obviously he's got that, Mexican style of fighting. So I don't know. I love Steve Garcia. I think he's got, crazy star potential. He has crazy knockouts. I think his last fight, against Calvin Kattar was very impressive as well. He couldn't put him out like he did, everybody else who's fought, but that's kind of what's, even more impressive about him is that it's crazy when he gets a decision because this guy's just been knocking everybody out. So I'm all over Steve Garcia here. I'm a big fan of this guy. I've been watching him for a while, and I'm super excited to see what he goes for next after he beats Onama this weekend.
Yeah, I do love this fight and what it means for the featherweight division in terms of moving guys up, in terms of rankings and whatnot, seeing who might be viable for fighting for a title come the end of 2026. And Son, I agree with you. I also am here going with Steve Garcia. And the one thing that put me to it is Steve Garcia, like you said, that like Mexican street fighting style where he's just all up in your face, pause, and he's just walking.
2 pauses
down.
on Steve, man.
He walks you down, right? So like I think he's gonna have Onama on the back foot, and Onama's last loss to the UFC was to Nate Landwehr, where same type of fighting style, just ultra aggressive, keeps the pace and keeps you on your back foot, and that's where Onama seems to struggle a bit, when he's in fights, and I think it shouldn't be any different with Steve Garcia here. I think he's gonna be the more high pressured fighter. He's going to be throwing bombs. He's going to be landing a ton of them. This dude was riding a five fight KO streak before getting into the octagon with Calvin Kattar, which is, impressive in itself. And I don't know if he gets it done there. Onama is very durable, but I think he's going to keep him on the back foot for a majority of this fight and just kind of dictate where it goes. And I think it's going to give Onama a lot of problems.
Yeah, I'm right with you, boys. I'm going to make it a clean sweep here for the Mean Machine, Steve Garcia. One hell of a nickname there. I fuck with the Mean Machine. But yeah, the Mean Machine does sit on his punches extremely well, and he fucking cracks. And he throws at a very high output, and so does David Onama. Both guys very active in there. See, both guys, cardio is going to be fun. I don't see cardio being an issue really for either of these guys either. I could see this one going to 5 rounds just because, like David Onama, like you touched on, Ryan, extremely durable, has never been put out in his professional career. But if we're going to judge this fight on the basis of damage, right, guys? It's like we want to talk about damage. See, the Mean Machine should be doing more damage here in the octagon opposed to David Onama. And yeah, clean sweep for the boys. And with all that being said, boys, either of you have anything you want to add before we get out of here for the night?
No, just keep an eye out for that Nascimento submission. I have a really good feeling that's coming this weekend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Maybe we'll try to throw together a little Around the Octagon cycle parlay for all of our fans that won't tail our bets because our bets don't hit. But
yeah, let's do it.
Beside the point, for everyone listening, thank you very much. Drop a like, drop a sub, and we'll see you back here next week. Have a good one.